I just want to get a sense from you. What is your reaction to being released? How are you feeling right now?
Um, I feel so excited. I feel very joyful. I wasn't even expecting to have left yesterday because throughout the day I kept calling her to find out if there was any update, and she said there was none. I was there just like I'm just gonna wait till whenever they feel like they're gonna let me go. And then all of a sudden at about 6:45 p.m. They called out my name from the jail and said to pack up my things. I was leaving. Everybody else had already thought I was going to be there till maybe today or probably next week. So the place just erupted with claps and shouts of joy and all of that. So I packed up. Um, I went to do the paperwork and I asked if I could call someone to just let somebody know I was being released and if the person could wait for me at Burlington because they were taking me to the Burlington office. But they said I wasn't allowed to make a call for security reasons until I get to the Burlington office. So I couldn't call until we got there and they let me call. And when I called Cecilia, she just started screaming and shouting on the phone. And of course, she got ready and came right away to grab me. We
What
got back like about 11 p.m. last night.
you you were able to leave at around 11 last night?
Yeah, we left at about between 9 and 10. We got back to the house like about 11 p.m.
Okay. And
Yeah,
oh, so you were able to leave from the Burlington ICE
at the
processing
Burlington.
office.
Yes, yes.
And what was that moment like being able to see your sister and supporters again?
I mean, she was the only one who was there. Nobody else knew, not even my lawyer knew I was going to be released. And I don't know if they did it deliberately just so, people don't gather at the office and all of that. I felt a sense of freedom because I was shackled again from the jail back to the Burlington Processing Center. They chained me on my legs, my hands, and attached another chain to my waist. So I was shackled all through the trip until we got to Burlington. So I kept wondering why they had to do that because if they were just going to release me, I didn't need to be shackled up like that. But I guess that's how they do it. So I felt a sense of freedom. I could breathe again, some fresh air. I've been there for like over almost 100 days without letting me go out. We were locked up just in the building. We couldn't go out. We couldn't. We just lost everything. No freedom. We had no freedom. Like you know, the jail was kind of overcrowded. The unit where we were, they put some like additional beds in the common area where we eat and where we're supposed to sit down and have like recreational activities and watch TV. But they put like more beds there to accommodate more people. Um, it had like between 18 to 20 people using one bathroom and one toilet. Your privacy was taken away from you. People slept with the lights on directly shining on their faces. It was quite a traumatic experience. I saw a lot of people started to seek mental health counseling and treatment because it was just a lot. It
Paul,
was a lot.
Paul, thank you for recounting all of these experiences.
Yeah.
When you were released yesterday, or when they called your name on the loudspeaker,
Mhm.
were you told why you were being released? Do you
Oh
know
no.
if it was because of the asylum?
Oh no, they don't tell you why you're being released or where you're taken to. They just call out your name and tell you to pack your things, you're leaving. So you don't know where you're going to. When I first got there, What they used to do was come move people in the middle of the night. Like we would be sleeping when you would hear over the loudspeaker, they'll call out names, 4 to 5 people at once, and tell them to pack up. They're leaving. And we don't know where they're going to or where they're taking to. They don't even know where they are going to, you know. So when they called my name and said to pack up and leave, I mean, I already knew the asylum was granted. So I was like, I kind of knew they were letting me go because that was the expectation from everybody else in the unit where I was. A lot of us wondered why they kept me there from after the hearing up until yesterday, because everybody thought they were going to let me go the same day or the next day at least. But I didn't hear anything. My lawyer too didn't hear anything, and Cecilia too kept scrambling and trying to find out what was the problem. So I guess when I called her and told her I'd been released, she was surprised and she was so excited as well. So, you know,
When you were released, was there any paperwork handed to you, and what did it say?
the only paperwork was at the jail. Um, they just got my thumb printed on a piece of paper. I guess the paperwork I signed on when I was brought in. But when I went to the Burlington Processing Center, there was nothing to sign. All they gave me back was my belongings they had taken from me when the day I got arrested.
Did you
So they
receive
gave
all?
those, yeah, they gave those back to me. Um, I think they held, I'm not sure, but they had my work authorization card, which I asked for. And they told me it was going to be in my case file with my lawyer. So I'm going to reach out to my lawyer this morning to find out if she has it. But that was not given back to me at the ICE processing center.
Is it your understanding that it's active or something you got to work on?
I don't know at the moment. I haven't checked yet. Once I call my lawyer, I get suppose she's gonna be in different hearings already by now. I will call her like much later in the day to find out if she has the card and probably go online to see if the one I had previously is still active or not.
Paul,
Um,
I wanted to get a little bit into your detention and the reaction from the community, the Suya Joint community, the home care agency that you worked for, and some of your former bosses I spoke to as well. What was it like throughout your detention hearing from the community?
um, I gained all the strength and even the confidence to go before the judge, knowing that I had that kind of support from the community. I remember, like, I think I said to you when we spoke, like, after I lost my bond, I was almost at the point of signing up for a voluntary departure because that's what I saw a lot of people do when people who lost their bond, who were not approved their bonds, just come back and just sign up for voluntary departure because at that point you feel like, well, all hope is lost. If the judge didn't grant you a bond, then what's the guarantee that she's going to grant you whatever kind of relief you're seeking for from immigration? You know, so I called Cecilia and I told her to just pack up my things and find a storage or throw it somewhere in the basement. I was just gonna sign for voluntary departure and just leave. But one thing she told me was like, if I had seen the kind of support I was receiving from the community, she told me it was overwhelming. That if I did that, I would be letting a lot of people down. I also called my lawyer and told her the same thing. And all she told me was, hey, Paul, let's fight this to the end. And that was where I gained strength, knowing that I had such massive support from the community out there. Those times that Cecilia hosted those events at the restaurant, and when I got on the video call and I spoke to people, I could see the amount of love and the amount of support that I got from the Boston community, and I remain so grateful for that. Without that kind of support, I don't think I would have been here by now. A lot of people who left, who signed up for voluntary departure or who eventually got deported was because they didn't have the kind of support system that I got. Um, some people could not afford to pay their lawyers. Some people had nobody to put their documents together and submit to the right places. But I was lucky to have that. And it all boils down to the support that I received and my family received from the community. And I'm ever grateful for that.
And while you were detained, was there any point in the past, like you said, almost 100 days, that you thought you might be deported very suddenly?
Oh, yes. Like I said, it used to happen in such a way that they would come in the early hours of the morning or like 3 a.m. sometimes and just call out names randomly. They didn't give you a prior notice of where they were going to take you to. So every night I started hearing those names being called. I was like kind of expecting to also hear my name, but that never happened. Um,
And Paul,
they were either moving people from that facility to another facility or moving you and taking you closer to where you could get deported, where the flights take off from. And each time I heard that, I was thinking, oh, well, these guys are just gonna get deported and that's it. Uh,
Paul, if you had been deported back to Nigeria, what would your concerns have been? And maybe perhaps you might be able to talk about what you experienced over there.
um, Ultimately, my safety. Like I said during my hearing, if I had been deported back to Nigeria, that would have been my death sentence because I had gone through the kidnap with Boko Haram. I had gone through my experience with the police, and that was the reason why I fled the country to seek asylum here in the United States, and then coming here, getting locked up in jail for like almost 100 days. I kind of felt like being persecuted again by the administration here because um, I mean I tried as much as I could to be up to date with everything, my documents. I had my work permit, I had my social security number. Um, like I was compliant, but then it happened that I got picked up, so I didn't know why that happened. And when I got to the ICE facility, the day I got picked up, the ICE officer who picked me up said I was out of status. I had overstayed my visa. And I told him, yeah, but I applied for an asylum and my case has been pending and everything I have is up to date. And he said, well, you know, that's what they've been asked to do. And so
Oh, Paul, can you very briefly just go through what happened the day you were detained in June? Was that June 15th?
yeah, June 15th on a Sunday, it was Father's Day. I woke up that morning. When I woke up that morning at 4 a.m., I felt some kind of way. I felt like something bad was going to happen to me, but I didn't know what was exactly. So I went back to sleep, woke up again at 7 a.m. And I forced myself out of bed, took a shower, got dressed, and I walked to my car. And as soon as I turned it on, I saw one of the cars that looked like the eyes, they're unmarked, so you don't know who is in it. Um, it had very dark tints, so I couldn't even see who was driving the car. It drove by in front of me where I was parked, and then it turned into one of the streets. So I'm like, well, Even if it's the ice, even if it's ice, it might not be me they were looking for, you know. So I drove out of the parking lot, and as I was driving down the street, I noticed the car come out from where it went into. It obviously went and made a U-turn, came back, and then drove by me, and then made another U-turn and started to follow me from behind. And then all of a sudden, from nowhere, I saw like four other SUVs coming behind me, and all of them had their lights on, you know. So I pulled over, um, and they all came, barricaded me, and the one they all came out, five of them. One of them tapped on my glass and told me um, to wind down my window. So I did, and he asked me to give him my ID. So I brought out my driver's license and I gave it to him. And he looked at it and told me to step out of the car. So I stepped out. And next thing he told me was that they have an arrest warrant for me from ICE. Told me to turn around and put my hands behind me. I did. I cooperated fully with them.
Paul, did you ever see the warrant?
No, they didn't show me a warrant. They just said it like verbally. So, I mean, and I didn't want to do anything because there were five of them. There was no way I could, I just didn't want to do anything that would further, put me in more danger or anything like that. And I was already seeing on the news how they tackle people to the ground, they overpower people, um, force people, and tie them up. I mean, handcuff them and put chains all over them. So I wasn't ready to do any of that. So I just cooperated with them, put my hands behind me. They put me in handcuffs and they put me in one of the cars. They asked me if to leave my car key in my car so I could call someone to pick my car from there. And I told them to just park it off the road and lock it up and give me the keys. So they did that. Um, we drove to the Westgate Mall at Brockton, where the rest of them all came. There was an area in the mall where like it was empty. There was nobody there, no cars parked. So we all got there. And at that point, they brought me out of the car again. This time around, they chained my legs, put a chain around my waist, and then attached it to the handcuffs, and then put me back in the car. And they drove me to the Burlington Processing Center. So it was while we were there, I asked if I could make a call, and the officer told me, well, they usually don't allow calls until all the paperwork is done, and they only give 5 minutes to call your family or your lawyer and let them know. But he said because I cooperated with them during the arrest, he was going to let me make phone calls. So I called my sister, Cecilia, and I called my lawyer, and I called my boss at work because I was supposed to be working that night. I mean, yeah, that night. So I informed them of what had happened. And I told Cecilia to come over and grab my car keys and my other belongings. So she was able to get there and they gave it to her. And she picked up my car from where it was and moved it to my apartment where I stay and parked it over there.
And how soon after were you sent to New Hampshire?
So I was there at the Burlington Processing Center for about an hour or 2 hours. They kept me in a very cold room. It was really cold. The AC was blasting at full blast. I don't know why they did that. I complained that I was cold and they gave me like a thin foil. I think like a blanket. It's just kind of like a thin foil to wrap over my body. It wasn't really doing much to help because I was really shivering because of the cold. Um, they brought me like a bowl of food. I can't remember what it was. I wasn't able to eat it anyways. And they kept me there for about an hour or two. And so they put me in a van with one other guy and a lady on the other side. and they drove us to New Hampshire. They dropped me and the lady off and took the guy to another facility, I guess, because he didn't drop from the car when we got to New Hampshire. And went in. They did all the paperwork at the booking and at the booking office, and then they took me into the unit. There in the unit, I saw a lot of other people. A lot of them were asylum seekers. Some said they didn't have any criminal record. They never had any record on them. Some said they were picked up maybe because of probably like a driving ticket, a speeding ticket. Um, those who had just speeding tickets were approved their bonds, but other people like myself with a DUI, with the DUIs, and yeah, I met a lot of other people who had DUIs who were denied bond and were
Oh,
asked to stay until the end of their court process. So I left a lot of people over there who um, are waiting for their court dates.
Paul, I did want to talk a little bit about the DUI situation. So, Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin sent a statement yesterday saying Paul Dama from Nigeria illegally overstayed his B2 tourist visa by more than 6 years. He
Mhm,
has two criminal convictions for driving under the influence in Massachusetts and is a public safety threat. Uh,
mhm,
President Trump and Secretary Noem are committed to restoring integrity to the visa program and ensuring it is not abused to allow aliens a permanent one-way ticket to remain in the U.S. What is your reaction to that? Can you talk a little bit about what happened with the DUIs?
Um, it happened at a time I was going through overwhelming grief. I came to the US and because I was seeking refuge here in the US and I applied for asylum. Uh, I lost my mom in 2023 and I couldn't attend her funeral. So the grief and the pain of losing a mom after not seeing her for about 4 years and not being able to attend her funeral was so overwhelming.
Oh, why weren't you allowed?
And
Why
I
weren't you
mean,
able to do that?
sorry, what say? Say that again.
Why were you unable to attend her funeral?
Um, I had my asylum case pending, and with an asylum case, I guess you cannot leave the United States until your case gets approved and all of that. Because I remember I spoke to my lawyer at that time to see if there was any kind of emergency travel arrangements I could make to attend the funeral and come back. But he said there was nothing that could be done. I just had to, wait until my case gets approved or, and all of that. So that was the reason why I couldn't attend. So, the grief took over me, the pain and all of that. And I started drinking, as a coping mechanism. And that was how I picked up those two DUIs. I went to court for both of them. Um, the convictions were given, and I was asked to be on probation for 1 year and to do like a couple alcohol classes, like the Massachusetts impaired driving classes, which I did. And I also took extra steps to ensure that I rehabilitated myself through. I was attending AA meetings. I did the structured outpatient addiction program. The RMV had me install a breathalyzer in my car and all of that. So I was compliant with everything with my probation. I was up to date and all.
Paul, in the
And
asylum hearing, I remember you and your attorney talking a little bit back and forth,
mm,
a judge, and mentioning the fact that you had pulled over and were asleep. Could you
yeah,
talk a little bit about that?
yeah. So on both times, when I realized I couldn't safely drive, um, I was really sleepy, and I pulled over and just slept off in my car, like hoping that by the time I wake up, I would be able to at least drive myself home. I didn't want to put my life and other people's lives at risk. But while I was there sleeping in the car, the cops pulled up on me, found me sleeping. We did the field sobriety tests. They got me arrested, took me to the office. I did the breathalyzer test and failed that as well. And so they charged me to court on both, on DUI charges on both. But like I said, the issue had been resolved in court. The conviction was given to me, um, and I did all that I was supposed to do, paid all the court fines, did everything I was asked to do. I made sure I was on track. I got myself into treatment for my grief and my the anxiety, as well as the trauma I faced back in Nigeria. And everything was going smoothly until the day I got picked up by ICE.
Paul,
And
you talked extensively about the treatment and some of the steps you took during that asylum hearing, and it really seemed to speak to Judge Cho when she made the decision to grant you asylum.
right.
Would you be able to briefly just mention, like, how exactly that treatment really informed you processing your trauma with Boko Haram, with being unable to be with your mother, and helped you, move forward?
Yes. When I went to High Point, Brockton, to do an evaluation, which was ordered by the court, I spoke to the lady who did it, and at the end of the evaluation, I requested that I wanted to see a therapist. Um, and she mentioned to me that it wasn't one of the requirements of the court, but I told her yes, that's a decision I was taking because I realized like things were beginning to fall apart for me, with the two DUIs and all of the grief and the trauma. I felt like I needed to sign up for treatment. So she told me yes, I was taking the best decision, for myself. And so she um, told me she was gonna talk to um, the therapist, and they were gonna set up an appointment for me to come see the therapist, which they did. And when I met the therapist the first time and I explained everything that had happened to me, um, of course, she knew what exactly I was going through. And so we set up a plan to come for treatment every 2 weeks. And that really helped me a lot because she walked me through a lot of strategies that I could use whenever I started to feel um, the pain and the trauma of losing my mom. She taught me to do meditations. She taught me how to avoid um, cravings when they start coming, how to identify cravings and how to avoid them, what to do with my time, instead of spending time, just thinking over and over again about what had happened to me, told me to find hobbies, and things that I'm interested in doing, and to call her anytime I felt the need to talk. So apart from just, seeing her once every 2 weeks, I could also call or email her at any time, and she was very responsive. So that really helped me a lot. With the AA, like I said, it helped me too a lot because I saw a lot of people who had lost everything, like people who at some point in their lives became homeless because of one addiction or the other. But then they were able to build up themselves back up. They gave me quite a lot of inspiration. And from there, I knew that there was hope in sobriety. Like, yes, uh, people go through a lot of things that could, break you and bring you down. Um, but with sobriety, it delivered like a message of hope and resilience, and the fact that, yes, no matter what it is, people can be able to build themselves back up. And that was what motivated me and kept me going. I kept attending AA meetings. And then at the structured outpatient addiction program, it was almost kind of intertwined with what I was doing with my therapist. They were, we talked a lot about, finding ways to deal with our trauma, finding ways to deal with addiction, and, just finding ways to totally abstain from whatever kind of addiction we were struggling with.
Oh,
With the MID, with the MID program, um, like I said, we watched a lot of videos of how uh, driving under the influence led to either crashes or led to people having relationships, broken relationships with families and friends. Um, you know, how to either, not to drink at all, or if you had to drink, just use an Uber and don't drive, or use the public transportation and not just drive. So I learned quite a lot, and that has positively impacted my life right now. Um,
I
and
do
I'm so
gotta,
grateful that I took that decision.
Paul, I do gotta interject a little bit because a few minutes ago, you talked about other things that they suggested, like hobbies. And
Mm,
for the sake of time, I just do want to talk a little bit about your jobs. I know you work at Suya Joint as a restaurant manager. You were working
mm.
there and also in home care. What what kind of work were you doing at both jobs, and do you plan to continue this?
Yes, absolutely. At Suya Joint, I was doing almost everything. I remember Cecilia once mentioned that like I was the jack of all trades because I was everywhere. I would fix minor plumbing issues. I would fix the POS system when it had issues. Like I was just everywhere. The food truck, I was in Boston, I was in Providence. So I was kind of hands-on and I was doing everything. At my other job at Nexus, um, I was taking care of like five individuals with disabilities. They were aged between 60 and 75. And we kind of bonded together. We became like family. Um, my boss visited me like 4 times while I was in jail, and he told me quite a lot on how the guys missed me. I remember this particular guy, his name is Matt. I understand he's on admission right now in the hospital, and I hope to visit him. And he, so I'm also the human rights officer at my job, and I have a picture with my phone number on the wall. He would always go pick up the phone and dial my number, wanting to talk to me. But of course, my phone was off, and he kept doing that over and over again, asking my boss when I was going to come back to work and all.
This was while you were detained.
Yeah, while I was detained. So we've kind of built a very strong relationship with them. And I am glad that they recognized the fact that I was missing for some time and they kept asking after me. I hope to
These
go
are,
back to work and I see and I would, and eventually unite with them again.
and these
Um,
are men who have physical and behavioral disabilities.
yes, yes.
Um,
Um,
so, Paul, I just briefly want to get into what's coming next for you. I
mhm.
mean, it's been less than 12 hours since you got home.
Yeah.
But I mean, starting with today, what's next for you today? And then moving forward.
Starting with today, I'm just gonna take some time to relax. While at the same time, I have already started reaching out to members of the community and my family. who have stood by me all this time. Um, I wasn't able to have a good sleep last night because people kept calling me and texting me and all of that. So I've so far been answering calls and replying text messages. I hope to see my therapist as well as soon as possible so we can get back on my therapy sessions because it was a difficult time for me also in the at the jail. Um, I kind of used some of the techniques and tools that she gave me. I read books, I meditated a lot. We didn't have enough space to do exercises, but with the little space that we had in the common area, we would just walk around and, stretch our bodies and all. So yes, I intend to go back and see my therapist and continue treatment. And I guess I'll just take a little time off. And once I feel better, I would jump back to work right away.
And is your immigration case related to deportation still pending? Is that something you're aware of?
Um, I don't know. Nobody has said anything. I mean, I'm just hearing from you right now about what Tricia McLaughlin said about me. I mean, if she specifically mentioned my name, I didn't even know about that. But I'm gonna look it up and see. I don't know what they intend to do about it. But I mean, the judge already granted the asylum. Um, I don't know if they're gonna appeal it or they would want to do anything about it. But I'm gonna look it up and see, and then I'll talk to my lawyer about it too as well.
Yeah,
Because
the statement DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, made was just privately when asked about whether or not you were going to be released last night. But
oh,
you've
okay,
since been released. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm also curious about whether or not they will appeal, and whether or not you being released sort of makes that go away. But
I
I'm guessing.
mean, once I got to the processing center, the ICE processing center yesterday, what they told me was that I was just gonna be released. Like there was nothing. I mean, they didn't have any reason to keep me anymore. So if anything, it might be like coming up after now, but I hope nothing comes up. But I'll watch and see, and then, like I said, I'll talk to my lawyer to know if okay, if anything comes up, what's going to be the next strategy or what's going to be the next step.
Well,
Yeah.
Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. Is there anything else that you want to add about the experience you just had?
I mean, it was quite tough. But like I said, I am very grateful to the community that stood by me and my family. I think I'm deeply, deeply indebted. I don't know how to start to say thank you to each and every person who stood by me. I'll try my best to reach out to as many people as I can. I will recommit myself and rededicate myself towards service to the community. What I've been doing in Suya Joint and what I've been doing at my job. The Suya Joint family stood firmly by me. The community stood firmly by me, and the only way I can pay back is just to remain committed to what I've been doing. So yes, that's what I'm gonna do, and I want to just say a big thank you to everybody who stood by me and my family during this difficult time.